Okay, welcome to Gold's Garage. It's a beautiful day in March, so we're outside today, and we got a special treat for you today. It's not another small block Chev, it's not even a 409. It's something even more special and unique. It's a engine from a 1967 Austin Healey 3000 Mark II engine, and I've just completed a detailed blueprint rebuild and restoration of this engine. And when Ed gets done talking, we're going to start it up and let you hear how it sounds. Hang in there because it's got a nice nasty sound. I'm sure my neighbors are going to love it, and you will too. So I'm going to introduce Ed. Ed is a longtime car restorer, car owner, engine builder, etc. He's been in this business as long as I have, and he has the details. He's doing the restoration on the Austin Healey, so I'm going to let him take it from here. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, thanks, Al. Yeah, I first heard about Al when I appraised early 70s Corvette, and I saw the work on the small block engine, and I thought, there's a guy that might be interested in doing a Healey. So this is the last year for the Healey, 1967, and the car was in pretty tough condition, and it hadn't been touched for a number of years. So my first reason for contacting Al was to make sure that we'd get a good engine to start with. So when you buy a car where the engine hasn't been run for 40 years, that's one of the first things I feel that you should do. So that's what we did. We actually Al tore down the engine and he checked it out, and I did a compression test at home, found that the front two cylinders were weak. So, and the cam lobes were worn off. So that was pretty well the only thing wrong with the engine. It wasn't seized, it was free, and it was really clean inside. So it was a good starting point. So we picked a machine shop to do all the work. We got new parts, but we did keep it standard bore. And so that's one good thing. And the tolerances and everything checked out real nicely. And that's about it. The next thing we'll do is put it in storage, and we'll finish up the frame and put it on wheels, and then we'll get the electrical done, and then we'll put the engine in it. But this way I'm assured that I won't have to do anything, hopefully, once the engine's in, because putting an engine in and out of Austin Healey is quite a chore. There's a lot of tight spaces, and once you do all the painting, you really don't want to mess around with an engine after you get it installed. So I'm glad Al was able to help me out, and we sure picked a nice day to do this. And all I can say, there's probably a little more work. We ran into a few little ignition boogaboos, but we got that sorted out. And I guess we can go ahead and start it.
Okay, let's start her up, and then we'll give you, I have a couple more comments about how special this project was. Before I forget to say that, thank you very much, Ed, for trusting me with it. This is not in my wheelhouse. I'm a GM Chevrolet guy, built lots of those, but I've never done one of these before, so it was interesting and exciting for me doing the research. And this engine is restored to exactly the way it was in the car, and it is the correct engine, so that adds value as well. So let's give her a start. You gonna run the carburetors, Ed?
Sure.
Final points. There are three things that we had to deal with. First of all, this is a 6-cylinder engine. My test stand is built for V8 engine, so it had to be modified. That wasn't too big of a deal. The second thing was this engine and a lot of British engines are positive ground electrical systems, and in North America we have negative ground, so that was a problem. We solved that by using two batteries in the battery stand. So the one battery, we added a second ignition switch to the stand, and we wired everything positive ground that ran the engine, and then we used the second battery to run the test stand, my electrical fan, timing light, and the fuel pump, which we needed for this engine. So that's how that got solved. The other thing what's interesting is every engine I build goes out of here. We prime it before it starts, so we have oil pressure. We have got oil to the top of the engine, on the valve lifters, up to the push rods, rocker arms, etc. And so we know when we fire that engine, it's going to see oil in the bearings instead of air. And the way we do that typically is with a tool like this that goes at the back of a GM distributor. Any GM engine can do this. We drive the oil pump, and you can even use something as simple as a speed wrench or electrical drill to do that. This engine cannot turn, the oil pump cannot turn unless the crankshaft's turning. So I researched it, how to prime an LS engine, because they are similar. The oil pump can't turn unless the crankshaft's turning. And the solution was this. It's a simple garden sprayer that I bought from Home Depot for less than $20. I got this idea from YouTube, by the way. I didn't think of it myself, to be fair. All 8 quarts of braking oil went through this. By simply hand pumping it, I was able to get 20 psi of oil pressure and oil to the very top of the engine, the rocker arms, the valve lifters, all that stuff. They were well lubricated, and we had a nice clean startup. So anybody dealing with this one, and I will probably use this method on Chevrolet engines in the future because it's just so simple and easy to do. So back to you, Ed, for any comments?
No, that's about it. And thanks again for working together with me on this. And now I feel more assured about putting it in the car.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Ed, for letting me do it. It was a fun project. Hope the neighbors enjoyed the noise. Thanks for watching.